What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole. Sitting across from me this weekend, every week, is Desra.
And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
Still haven't gone to school. No. Made my parents proud.
I've gone to the school of Minecraft. We should do a Minecraft episode.
You think?
I think it'd be great.
You think people would enjoy it, though, is the question. Because I have a strong feeling if we did an episode or two, they wouldn't enjoy it.
I think people would love it.
Yeah?
My daughter does nothing but watch people play Minecraft on YouTube, so I think there's potential to be tapped here.
Yeah, I wonder if I'd be interested in something like that. But instead of Minecraft this week, Desra, we are continuing a conversation from last week about
Minecraft?
the Atari Lynx.
Minecraft.
It's like the same thing.
Oh, man.
Old and outdated.
Okay, somewhere out there's someone who can make this happen.
Oh, God.
I want a playable version of Minecraft on this.
Yeah, scaling, rotation. You could the world would probably be 3 blocks by 3 blocks.
Yeah. What is it? 160 by... it was 160 by 102? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, very, very small resolution.
Desiree, we talked last week, to keep this boy on topic, we talked last week about how the Lynx only sold 3 million units, so it was definitely not the winner of the portable race.
No.
The Game Gear outsold it. The Game Boy wicked outsold it by probably 100 million.
You're definitely into what they call the innovator's dilemma. It's not always the best to be the first to market. They were the first to market with a color screen.
Yep.
Not always the best choice.
Yeah, 16-bit. This is the first of 2 huge bit wars that Atari started that they shouldn't have been involved in. They called this 16-bit, which is, and then they had the Jaguar later. There'll be an episode or 3 about that.
Yeah.
Like 64-bit, do the math. When we did the math, it didn't work out very well.
Well, I mean, yeah, 16-bit memory addressing is not the same as a 16-bit processor.
Right.
So, but that's getting technical.
And just before we move on to actual games,
the
games came on these cool little cartridges, reminiscent of if you were ever a TurboGrafx or PC Engine fan, kind of like Who Cards or Turbo Chips. They're the same flat, almost credit cardy like deal.
Yep, with one small exception. So we're going to show this. It was the first edition, the flat ones. Which is kind of problematic. So the card inserts the back here. That's fine, but no, I want to take it out, and that's not great. Okay, I was acting a little bit, but it's a little rounded.
Do we need to call somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah, but these, the revamped models, have a nice little curvature in the top. And so, I can't believe that they gave us a hand grip, although, again, the Atari Jaguar hand grip.
Yep.
Yep. Boom, pop it in. Nice and easy. Get the lip, pop it out. Look how easy that was.
Much easier.
I feel like you should try it.
Although, they say they don't stack, but they stack kind of.
They don't stack very well. You can stack 3 at once, and then 4 of them fall over.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of handles, do you think anyone from the Atari Lynx and the Atari Jaguar moved to Nintendo in time for the GameCube?
Oh, maybe.
Because that's...
Speaking of handles, yes. I would like some vodka. Desra, why don't you take us away with your first game this week? I'm
confused.
I want to be drunk.
So this...
I want to be confused.
So this is a game that I don't know how I missed this game. I was going through the games. This is one of the first ones I popped in. And it wasn't one of the first ones. I'm going to take that back, actually. Because if it was one of the first ones, I would have not gotten to review any of the games. Because I would have spent all my time playing this. This is a game that scratches very particular itches that I like in my games. It was out for almost every system possible at the time. And I never played it. This is, of course, Rampart.
I love Rampart.
Rampart is an amazing game.
Yeah.
I don't know how I get to this point in my life never having played it. I mean, it came out...
Whoa, really?
I had never played it. I had never even heard of this game.
That's insanity.
I don't know how... Like I said, this is this bizarre mystery. It just kind of... I had the same experience with Bad Religion. The band?
Yeah. Oh, I know Bad Religion. I'm feeling for you here.
I was listening to that kind of music.
What was your childhood like?
Well, that's the thing. In that time, I was listening to that kind of music. Black Flag? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then... For whatever reason, Bad Religion didn't happen until like 5 years ago. I rediscovered them. So this is the same thing with Rampart.
I can't imagine my early teen years without Bad Religion and Rampart. No wonder why
at the same time. I know it's bizarre. So if you're like me
Yeah.
and had this weird brain suck and for some reason don't have any memory of this, or if you're brand new to these kind of games, Rampart, it's a strategy game.
Sure.
Yeah, it's great granddaddy of tower defense games, definitely.
Yep.
The idea is you start off the game. There's a few different castles you can choose from. You choose your castle. You get 15 seconds, I think,
Roughly,
to build a wall around it.
Yep.
And then you can place as many cannons as you can fit inside that little space you're given. Well, I think
you're allowed to have 3 cannons.
Yeah.
I think to start. Maybe it's 2. I could be wrong. Yeah.
And then if you're playing a multiplayer version, it's basically my castle versus your castle.
Yeah.
If you're playing the single player version, it's my castle versus the ships that are coming in from the harbor.
And not to totally segue this or whatever the word I was trying to think of is, we haven't even talked how many Lynxes you could link up together to play multiplayer. There were ways to link up many Lynxes. Lynxi?
Lynx, yeah.
Yeah.
Lynxis? Oh, that's a rare.
Right. So to be able to play multiplayer on a portable system, I mean, not unheard of, definitely uncommon. Atari did it really well.
And here's actually something I was finding out. Up until the very last minute, it was planned to be infrared.
Really?
It was going to be infrared sharing.
That would have been crazy.
Yeah, but apparently they just couldn't make it work. So at the very last second, like, no, we have to do hardware and a cable. Of course, the other problem with the Atari Lynx, as we sort of hinted at last episode, not many people had one.
Right.
So the miracle wasn't so much being able to play 8 people on one game. It was finding 8 people.
Finding 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 million sold. You spread that out over all of the world, and good luck.
Yeah.
But back to Rampart.
Back to Rampart. So there's the build phase, then there's kind of the battle phase where you get shot at, and then this was the part that I just got hooked on, the rebuilding phase. So what happens is, their cannons blow up your chunks of wall, and you have, I think it was like 30 seconds or something crazy like that, and you get pieces of wall, but they're Tetris-type shapes.
Oh, they're Tetris-type shapes.
Well,
I know. They're not 4x4 or anything
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, they're not specifically made up of 4 squares, but and so you don't get a choice. Like, if you get the cross piece, you have to find some place to put it.
Yeah.
And you put that down, and hopefully you've rebuilt your walls bigger and not leaving any gaps, so that for the next round, you can go again. If there are any gaps, you lose that castle.
You lose it.
It's up.
Yeah. And the more castles you encompass with your Tetris shapes, the more cannons they give you to rebuild for the next round.
Exactly.
Because every single round, more and more ships are come in from the ocean to attack your towers. So you need all those cannons. And the faster you can build up, the better off you'll be.
And the other thing is, too, it seems like, okay, well, I want to place as many cannons as possible. Well, no, because if that section of wall gets blown out, once you've placed a cannon, that's it. You can't move it anymore. So now you're stuck to trying to defend and build around that spot. So it gets pretty strategic. So it's strategic thinking. There's a couple different phases of building, and it is fast. Like, you don't have a lot of time. You've got to just, especially that rebuilding phase, you're just throwing pieces down left and right and hoping you get it. Yeah, this is an amazing game.
I can still hear the announcer's voice in my head going, "Ready, fire!" Yeah, fantastic game. Fantastic.
And one thing I don't think we've mentioned yet, the sound quality on these games is shockingly good.
Shockingly.
I mean, I was expecting, okay, this is kind of, an older system, 16-bit. I had my headphones in, and one difference, the original Lynx was dual mono.
Okay.
This is actually panning stereo.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No. I don't think a lot of the games I played really took advantage of that, but that's something the hardware is able to do. But yeah, the sound design on a lot of these games was pretty good.
So this is going to be a much different type of game that I'm talking about next. Okay. Now, you know me. We've talked.
We've met.
Yeah, you know me too. We've talked. I think everybody at this point knows that I'm a huge fan of Lucasfilm adventure games.
Yes.
The last thing
we should do an episode or two on those.
We should do that, and then maybe proceed it all with Double Fine. I never expected to find one of those LucasArts styled adventure games on the Atari Lynx, and boy, did I ever.
Yeah.
This is a solid game.
I get a pretty strong feeling about this game, but
it's Dracula the Undead. This game looks like it should be on the Game Boy because it is brown and black. It is literally, it is monochromatic. They use shades of brown with black background. which actually lends to its overall tone. It's dark, it's creepy. It uses a scaling effect to really great effect, because your character, you'll move your character around the screen, and he'll move in and out of the foreground pretty seamlessly for the technology we're working with here.
And it's introduced by Bram Stoker himself.
It is indeed not just introduced, but every so often it'll cut back to him, like a very nice drawn animated version of him lounging there with a book and explaining the story that's happened thus far. I love when it cuts away, because it's like, oh, I'm continuing the tale of this.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. The whole interface system works a lot like the earliest Lucasfilm adventure game, Labyrinth, where the stuff pops up at the bottom of the screen. It's not like you don't select from a preset stuff. You do, but you don't. If you know what I'm talking about, then good for you. If not, then you're not missing anything. It is a graphic adventure game, and it's on the Lynx. If you know all of the solutions, it doesn't take long, like any graphic adventure game. But this is like pretty interesting. Anytime you have a conversation with somebody, it brings up that character on the screen. Like it breaks away from the action. There's no action. It's all puzzle solving. And then you have like dialogue choices. And as far as the gameplay itself goes, that puzzle solving stuff, it is what I love about graphic adventures. You walk around and you just collect the crap out of everything.
Yeah.
You have the biggest menu with all this stuff, and so when you run into a puzzle, you go, what do I have to work with here?
Right.
But you said you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, so this is where it gets a little bit into the... Maybe I'm being nitpicky, because I fired this up, and I was like, wow, this is something different. I am actually super excited for this. Because, I made it clear, I love it when developers take a chance on something a little weird and out there. And yeah, trying to cram a text-based adventure game onto a color handheld, and we're going to make it black and white because screw you, that's why. I loved every bit about that. This is where we get into the slowness. Now, it doesn't seem like it would matter. It's a text-based adventure game. Why does it matter? To actually control, you've got basically this kind of left and right. There's like the verbs and the objects.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got to flick back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
And that was slow enough for me. Like, when I hit the button, the reaction to that was just incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it is slow, and the interaction makes it even slower.
Yeah, and I didn't mind like the animations on the screen being slow, but just the fact that I would hit that, it would switch, and mentally I'm already thinking I've switched over to the verbs, I'm thumbing through that, but no, I haven't switched over there yet because it hasn't actually made that switch.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
Yeah,
I do want to put this in context of other video games. This superseded the Alone in the Dark game, the first Alone in the Dark game.
Okay.
It gets compared to Alone in the Dark 1 for some reason. I don't know why, because I guess it's like that. It's just the tone, I guess, in that it is like an adventure game. It doesn't have any of the action that Alone in the Dark has, but this beat Alone in the Dark to market by a year.
Yeah.
Like, so this is definitely, an innovative title. Let's just put it that
no
way.
question. Yeah.
Even if it didn't execute, perfectly, it's definitely an innovative one, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it up here. If you definitely get a guide, blast through it in 45 minutes, and it's a good time. But yeah, you don't need a Lynx, just emulate it.
Yeah, I think props to, like I said, taking the chances. The design is great. It really, and again, this is one that uses the sound really well.
Yeah.
It's very atmospheric for a 16-bit game. But yeah, that interface was a bit rough.
Oh, I understand. Don't you worry about a thing. That's all I have to say about Dracula the Undead. Strange little title for a strange little console.
So and here's where my hypocrite hat, because I'm going to talk about a game that's almost exactly the same kind of thing. Really interesting design, really weird choices, really creative, but then the controls kind of make you want to throw things. But I still love it anyways, and this is Todd's Adventures in Slime World.
I love Todd's Adventures in Slime World.
First of all, the title is like, all right, high five right there. Thank you, Epix. Hey, Epix, we've heard them before.
Yeah, we didn't really go into the history of this console, but Atari was supposed to lead the hardware manufacturing, and Epix was supposed to take the lead on all of the video game development.
And that worked real well for a while.
For a year, and then Epic's filed for bankruptcy.
Whoops.
So there were, Epic's, when I was a Commodore 64 gamer back in the day, so many good games.
Yeah.
They were amazing. I can't believe they filed for bankruptcy. That was crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But Todd's Adventures in Slime World.
Todd's Adventures in Slime. This was... I was not expecting this game at all. First of all, it does something that not many games really do. And certainly not modern games, but even games at the time. Like, there's a basic structure of a game, but then there's six different ways to play it. They call it levels, but it's really not levels.
Yeah.
It's basically taking the kind of meat and potatoes of the game they've made and just changing the rules to make it very different gaming experiences. Before I get into that, I should probably explain what the game is. It's basically a platformer. It's kind of Metroid reminiscent in some ways, where you're exploring these caverns. There's a mini map. You play Todd. You're going around looking for slime crystals on this slime world. The only weapon you have is a water gun. The water gun, it can be used to basically shoot at enemies. Most enemies die one hit, which is great, except for these nasty little red things. You hit them and they explode, and if any of those pieces of explosion hit you, you're dead automatically. Which is, well, one of the two insta-deaths in the game. We'll talk about the other one in a little bit. But most of the other situations, you get splashed with the slime, and your character looks, basically the more you get hurt, the more slime covered you get. But you can really easily fix that by just finding a puddle, getting in, and washing off.
Oh, yeah. I forget about that.
Yep. So it's really not that punishing enemies-wise, except for those red slimes and the goddamn hidden snappers.
Goddamn hidden snappers.
So you're walking along. This is great. All of a sudden, this thing comes out from nowhere.
Yeah.
And I hope no one was listening to headphones there. Sorry about that. But it just comes up and grabs you. Eventually, you find out there are tiny little cute clues that let you know, hey, there's one coming up. You better watch out. And the only way to avoid them is to know exactly where it is and jump over the space.
Yep. It's punishing, but
it is.
But it's fair.
Yeah, but it's fair.
It's like the first Dark Souls.
So different levels. Easy is basically the game, but there aren't as many of those red slimes, and there are very few of the hidden snappers. Exploration, enormous maps, and here's the thing: tons of secret. There's just hidden walls everywhere that you can expose by spraying them down with your squirt gun. Action is kind of the same game, but way tougher enemies. Red snappers are everywhere. Hidden snappers are everywhere. The red slimes are everywhere. Here's where it gets interesting. Suspense. Timer set to 3 minutes. You have to go from beginning to the end of that 3 minutes, or you die.
That is suspenseful. And
especially in a game where it's all about finding hidden, and getting lost and all that. The good news is you can collect mushrooms. They add a minute to your time. Logic. This was cool. Same kind of game, same building, but you don't get a weapon. So you have to figure your way through, like timing things and jumping. And then combat is where this guy gets interesting.
Yeah, we start linking up the links again.
Exactly. Combat, basically, you and all your friends, up to 8.
That's crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Can all be in the levels at the same time, competing against each other, trying to rack up points. Each of you have 5 lives. Whoever's left standing wins.
Yeah.
It's really creative. Like, the graphics on this, I was shocked at how good it looks. Like, it really feels like the walls feel like they're oozing and pulsating. And this was one of the games specifically I was thinking about. There was a Sega port for this.
Yeah, I have it on Genesis.
And it looks awful.
It's really bad.
All these really nice, smooth animations you get in the Lynx version, they're just like, they just do 4 frames of animation repeating. It goes from being this really... It's hard. Everything looks really organic. It really looks like there's actual slime dripping everywhere. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a strange game. It has been lost to the annals of history. But yeah, fantastic game, and the just really showed that there was a lot of untapped potential in the Lynx itself. Yeah. The levels weren't randomly generated, right? I'm making that up in my head.
No, they weren't randomly generated, but it certainly would feel that way. They're so complicated and just weird that you could understand feeling that.
I know we're always running low on time here at Gaming Without Parole. So my next one I'm not going to spend much time with, but I will say this is definitely an underappreciated game. It gets looked over quite a bit. Even when I mentioned it to you via text today, I was like, I want to talk about this game. You're like, oh, I wanted to do that, but it bored me.
Yeah.
This is Scrapyard Dog. And Scrapyard Dog is this. So when I was a kid, consoles and handhelds were sold because of their platforming mascots.
Yes.
Right? It's like Mario was awesome, sold a lot of Nintendo, Sonic, everything.
Gex.
Yeah, the 3DO. Ooh, the 3DO episode's coming up. Trust me, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So Scrapyard Dog was sort of the thing everybody looked to for the Atari Lynx. They're like, okay, this is their mascot, quote unquote, because it's the 2D platformer.
Yeah.
And if you just pick it up and play it for a little bit, you're gonna be like, this is not the platformer they needed, but it's the platformer we got. It's so basically Mr. Big takes your dog away.
Oh, that bastard.
It's really strange that a successful music group of their caliber would just go around snatching little boys' dogs. It just doesn't seem right.
I'm the one who wants to steal your dog.
Steal your dog. That's it, right? That's the song? Yeah.
It is now.
Okay. So Mr. Big steals your dog. Strangest story arc ever. And so when you start off the game, you're playing as this little boy going to get your dog back. But when you throw projectiles to kill the enemies, which die in the dumbest way ever, they scale down to nothing. It's like, well, okay, we get it. It's a tech demo.
I like that, actually.
Oh, I was like, that seems like makes it look like a tech demo.
Well, yeah.
But the projectiles you're throwing, they get thrown at an arc, and I always hate in games when you throw things and they're at an arc. But you play a little bit longer, and man, the things that you get stun guns, which freeze all the enemies on the screen for a limited amount of time, so you can run through the level. You get armor, which protects you, of course. Flamethrowers, which shoots obviously straight across the entire screen. It's like the biggest weapon I've seen on the Lynx. There's a 3-way shot and a normal shot. Okay. Again, we're getting back into shmup territory.
Yeah.
I promised a few episodes back that I was never going to say the word shmup again, and now I can't think of the word shoot 'em up when I need to. I just say shmup all the time. I hate the word shmup. There's even points in this game where you get into vehicles, and it treats it like a shoot 'em up.
Okay.
Horizontally scrolling, and you're in little vehicles, and ting, 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 shooting the enemies. There's whenever you encounter a door in this game, you knock on it. You can go up to it and knock on it and see what's on the other side. Often, mini games. There's ones like Simon, where you
Okay, so I have to admit then, I gave up on this game way too early.
That's what I'm saying.
So, mea culpa.
I think this is the third time I've played this, or tried to play this game, and this is the first time I've realized how deep it got. Because the first 2 times I was like, this is such a garbage throwaway game.
Yeah.
Right, it reminded me of Keith Courage and Alpha Zones the first 2 times.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later too. So the mini games you play, it's there's one that's like Simon, there's one that's like a 3-card Monty, more like a 5-card Monty.
Wow.
It's there's a lot of stuff going on. It seems like such a repetitive game at first.
It does, yeah.
And then it's got so much variety. It's crazy. It's still not awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it's certainly way better than we all think it is.
Well, and that's exactly the text conversation we had. You're like, oh, I'm going to mention this one. It's like, oh, I was thinking about that. That was cute, creative looking, but repetitive. And apparently, yeah. So here's a hint. If you're developing your own games, make sure you show a little bit of the potential of your game in the first couple minutes. Don't wait till 5 minutes in.
Listen, you forget that when we were kids,
that's true.
And you only got one game every 6 months. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
You were going to stick with Scrapyard Dog till the end, until you finally take down that evil music group known as Mr. Big. Those bastards. I want to sing. You were gonna see all this because that's how we played games as kids. Now we all grew up and now we have disposable income and we just buy multiple games a week and if something doesn't grab you in 5 minutes, you don't keep playing it.
Or you have the crazy friend who says, "Des, here's a Lynx and 30 games." Yeah.
I am obviously the crazy friend in this scenario,
but very appreciated. It was a blast.
Oh yeah, I can't. I'm gonna hand you more systems when you leave today.
So my last, we're definitely running out of time, but my last honorable mention is mostly for a screenshot, and Brian doesn't know, but I put it on. If anyone follows me on Instagram, I put this on Instagram a couple weeks ago. This is the Lynx Casino, which I just dropped. Lynx Casino.
Okay.
Gameplay, it's a casino game. What do you want? You play blackjack, you play craps. But I would have to say it's one of the most accurate casino simulators I've ever seen, because you don't actually, like, your character kind of walks around the casino floor to different gaming tables. And as you're walking around, there's little things like, let's say, have that picture show up there maybe, an Elvis impersonator and a drunk guy passed out of the table.
This is the truest casino simulator I've ever seen.
It really is. I absolutely love that there. Because, these games, they're casino games. If you want to play blackjack, here's your chance to play blackjack. But just really taking a little bit of reality of what it's like to walk around a casino. I half expected to see an old lady with her oxygen tank next to her, but they didn't go quite that far. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I just thought that was, I thought that was adorable. And I had this whole thing about, we talk about this being slow, and there was Warbirds.
Yeah.
Versus, where's the blue? Oh no! Oh, here it is.
All right, it's the old style card, right?
Blue Lightning.
Yep.
Warbirds. Again, airplane simulator, fighting simulator. So slow.
Yeah, but did the scaling really well.
But it was. And then Blue Lightning.
Whoa!
Wait.
You make it sound like we're talking about hard driving here. Hard driving ran at a solid 1 frame per second. At least Warbirds was semi-smooth.
Right, and that was my other hard driving versus Road Blasters.
Dynamically different. So,
and a lot of can say, the Lynx was slow, but obviously, the people who made hard driving versus the people who made Road Blasters, there was something to be saying about just executing good code on this platform.
Yeah, no, obviously, like hard driving was trying to do something different. It was trying to make a racing game that was 100% made out of polygons, which everyone who tried to do that before their time didn't do it well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a lot of these games are hit or miss. But I don't know. What do you think overall? Do you think there are more hits or more misses in this pile that we have here?
I think what the Lynx suffers from, and where the Game Boy got the huge advantage, was the Game Boy was around long enough, because everyone has these huge memories about how great the Game Boy was. Yeah. But that first batch of games, but it was around long enough for people to really figure out how to get to the nuts and bolts. How can we make this thing, sit up and bark? Right. The Lynx never got that.
There's not a single RPG in this pile. The closest we get is like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which looks like an RPG, but it's not. Yeah, it's virtually unplayable. But yeah, you'll see like some games are crazy good and some games are crazy bad, and the same thing happened with the Game Boy. But then, there with the thousands of titles that the Game Boy has, of course there are going to be hundreds that you remember that are amazing. Right. The Lynx has 88 North American titles. Yep. I think that's right. So right, what possible percentage of those can be your favorites? Maybe 5, maybe. Yeah.
What is kind of neat about this, kind of bring this sort of to a close, there is actually a homebrew community now that are building ROMs, and building cartridges that are taking advantage of it. So using codes and executing things that we kind of figured out, 20 years later, right, or 30 years later. Yeah, 20 years later. So that's kind of, we didn't review any of those, but if you really want to get into that, there's a really cool community and new games that have been released like last year. Yeah, to run on the Atari Lynx, and those are definitely worth checking out.
Yep, absolutely. And just as a final honorable mention before we call it quits completely, this is a game I've mentioned before. It is called Prophecy Viking Child.
Oh yeah,
yeah. This is easily, I think in my humble opinion, one of the best games for the system. It's an honorable mention only because I feel like I've talked about it many times in other episodes. But what it is, it's basically Lynx's version of Wonder Boy in Monsterland. Mm-hmm. You go around and it does run very
Wonder
slow,
Boy.
but the deliberate slowness of this game makes it feel more strategic, as you, instead of just like a quick-paced platformer, and now it feels like a deliberate adventure.
Right, it was the same thing we were saying about Toki last episode. Yeah,
exactly. The thing about Viking Child is that time is of the essence. So even though it's not a fast-paced game, you have to manage your time well, because what's happening is you have this collection of hearts, and it serves as your health bar. But technically, it's also a time limit, because there's an hourglass that's slowly emptying in the top corner of the screen. And every time it empties out, you lose one of those hearts. So it's very, very important that you manage your time, and you don't dick around looking for secrets. You need to learn where those secrets are ahead of time, and also you need to learn what stores have the items you want. Otherwise, you're wasting time, searching out a door that isn't going to have what you need.
Oh wow! So, yeah, that's evil.
It's really evil, but when you get good at this game, which takes a while, you get real good at it. And and what you end up doing is there's all these like extra weapons you can buy, and a lot of times you have to say, do I want these weapons or should I buy more hearts? Or do you have to say, you know what, I don't need these hearts because I'm going to save up for that extra guy that I know is available for sale in the next store.
Okay.
So it's all about money management too. So you're managing all these different things, time and hearts and money, and saying, what's the most important thing for me right now? And you also have to know when you just reset and start the level over.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get into
too screwed.
Too screwed.
Yeah.
Unwinnable situation. The bosses are great. It feels like an epic adventure. Just pretty amazing for the console.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
I really like the Lynx.
Yeah, I'm kind of sorry I missed out on it. But yeah, again, where I was at that point in my life, there's no way we were going to be affording it anyways. But yeah, it really is. It's not like, this was this total missed potential. It should have been so great. I mean, it did okay. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a massive. It wasn't as nearly as much as Atari wanted to do, of course. There was a lot of potential there. I think it could have been much bigger, but hey.
Yeah, I'm surprised that out of the 88 games, we found so many that we liked so much.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to love in here. Yeah.
So again, like we asked you last week, make sure you comment below and tell us, your Lynx stories. Is this are you still playing Lynx games? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Are there people out there? Are you playing the new games?
I would love to hear if you're playing any of these homebrew games, or if you're a homebrewer yourself. Just drop us a line, because maybe we'll talk about one of your games.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to talk about is new games for old consoles, and I'd love to do an episode all about that too.
I find that whole thing fascinating.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? Craziness.
That's it.
All right. Cool. Well, that's been the Atari.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, what?
One little technical thing I probably should have mentioned when we talked about it. So cartridges, it's got the ROM in there. You plug it in, it becomes part of the circuit board. It plays off of that.
Not in this.
The Atari Lynx loads the program off of this into its operating memory.
Yeah, real weird.
Yeah, it's I don't know how standard that was after this or before this, but just a weird, quirky little thing, which is actually what I found at some of the homebrewers. They get to cheat around that because they can add more memory in this space than they could before. So you can actually get a whole lot more going on. But anyways,
it definitely brings to mind back on the old Atari, we used to be cassette tapes. And you'd have to play. Yep, that's kind of the genesis of the Lynx. Ooh, the genesis of the Lynx.
Well, actually,
but we're gonna get ourselves into a real deep hole here.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's coding here that's actually built to work with tape drives.
Yeah,
but the tape drive never came out for it.
No, but, some old tech that we got some new life out of. Good stuff.
All right.
Again, we are always curious to know what you want us to talk about. If there's a console or a type of game or a series of games or anything video game related that you are interested in hearing me and Des ramble on about for hours on end ad nauseum, then please let us know, and maybe we'll talk about the stuff you want us to talk about.
And Coco the Poop Dog, a 15-part Skyrim episode that's coming up. I swear it.
What up, Coco?
No, I don't.
For Gaming Without Parole, I'm Brian.
I'm Desra.
And we'll see you next week.